We are the most educated, the most liberated, the most informed, freest women in the world. And with that freedom comes a responsibility. And I believe we have a responsibility to help our sisters wherever they are.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I speak with influencers from all over the world who are contributing to the common good in all kinds of interesting ways. Contributing to the common good in even the smallest of ways is one of the scientifically proven ways we can age with vitality and deep contentment. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager, and my goal is to share optimism about aging and introduce you to guests who will inspire you to live with zest. And to find out more about this podcast, my web courses, and my book, Not Just Chatting, How to Become a Master Podcast Interviewer, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. While you're there, you can sign up for my weekly email newsletter, The Insider, where you will get behind-the-scenes looks at upcoming episodes and other fun tidbits. And if you love the podcast, I'd be grateful if you shared it with your friends. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker. Find out more at judybanker.com. Ever wonder what the host of Zestful Aging does when she's not podcasting? Creating one-of-a-kind earrings, of course. I've just opened an Etsy shop called Zestful Design, no S, and it showcases my fun, comfortable, and zesty polymer earrings. These earrings are fun to make and fun to wear. So check out my new shop, Zestful Design, on Etsy. Well, I love speaking with smart women who advocate for other women across the globe. And today we'll be speaking with Pam Varkony, who has worked on 4 continents as a writer and advocate covering topics from business ethics to the status of women in the developing world. She's won numerous awards and recognition for her writing and humanitarian work and has twice traveled to Afghanistan. However, the recent political events there brought all of her other projects to a halt as she focused on chronicling the stories of her Afghan friends and doing what she could to assist their escape. Pam has been published in major U.S. newspapers and magazines and heard on NPR. And in 2017, she was named a Pearl S. Buck International Woman of Influence. Welcome to the show, Pam.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm really excited to speak with you. Let's just start with your beginning career. You were in advertising and public relations, and you were very focused on your career. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think that most women of my generation, we're talking about zestful aging, the leading edge of the baby boom, which is what I am. I think when we finally got the opportunity to go into the workplace and have real jobs, I think a lot of us took that very seriously and wanted to make our mark. And I know I certainly did. And I was very enthusiastic about my career and I focused on it a lot. And I had a very successful career, I think, and ended up owning my own advertising, marketing and PR firm. Mm-hmm. So, it was, women's liberation of the 70s gave me that opportunity.
And you took it all the way.
I took it and ran with it. And I was very serious about my career. I did during that time get married and have children and everything, but most of us did who went into the workplace. We were married and had children and we balanced all those balls in the air. Mm-hmm. So it was a wonderful career. And you know, the nice thing about advertising and PR, Nicole, is it exposes you to so many different, people and industries and jobs. And, you're not just focused on one industry as if you worked for a company that makes widgets and all you would know about is the widget. Well, if you're in the advertising, marketing, and PR business, you have to become part of the companies that you're representing and you're working for. So you get a lot of broad-based knowledge and you see a lot of different experiences. And one of the things that I started to observe was that even though there were a lot more women in the workplace and women were moving up into middle management positions, there was still a lot of women being held down, not taken seriously. There was still a lot of sexual harassment. Everybody looked the other way.
I see. And so glass ceiling kind of
yeah, there was definitely a glass ceiling. And there was definitely a boys' club about sexual harassment. So that was that was the discouraging part of being in the workplace. And when I had my own advertising agency, I had the luxury of having an all-woman ad agency.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. I only hired women. I'm surprised I wasn't sued for reverse sexual discrimination.
Oh my goodness.
And every once in a while in my, 7-8 years that I owned the agency, I would hire a man. There'd be a man who was very qualified for a position and I would hire him. And every time I hired a man, it threw the chemistry, it threw the balance in the agency off.
That's so interesting. And so did he typically leave or did you have a conversation?
Yeah. Usually, it was almost always, it only happened 2 or 3 times in all the years I had the agency that I did hire a man, but it almost always ended up that it was kind of a mutual agreement kind of thing. He felt like he didn't fit and he didn't fit.
I bet there could be some really interesting case studies about that.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. So you were really gung-ho, doing a lot of good work, being successful in advertising and PR. What started to change for you in that you wanted to broaden your focus to international work?
Well, I had a family tragedy. When you're going along and life is so good, and I had my own agency and I was very involved in my community and sat on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. So, I mean, I had a happy marriage. Life just couldn't have been better. That's when life comes and blindsides you. And, my oldest daughter was killed in a car accident.
Oh my goodness. And so things were going along, full steam, and then this happens.
Yeah, and there is just nothing that will knock you down faster than the loss of a child. So I was fortunate in that. There's almost nothing fortunate about these circumstances, but I was fortunate in that the agency was successful and had a very good reputation, and I put it with a business broker and it was sold within 30 days.
Oh my goodness.
So I was able to just go home and just heal. I laid on the floor in the fetal position in her bedroom and
oh my goodness.
And I did that for almost a year. And when I was ready to kind of rejoin the world, of course I had a non-compete agreement with the people who bought my agency. So I couldn't really go back into the advertising and PR business. So I started to do, training. I had developed a sense while I was grieving over that year. I had developed a sense that when I went back out into the world, I wanted to be more of an influencer, to use a modern term, than simply a successful business executive.
And when you think of the word influencer, what comes to mind?
I think of someone who people will listen to, and someone who's capable of starting a conversation and having people maybe look at things from a different point of view, or look at something that they hadn't thought about before. And so I wanted to highlight the fact that women needed to be empowered. They needed to have opportunities for leadership. And that was kind of the outside view of it. But the inside view of it for women themselves was, hey, you have got to speak up. And you have got to stand your ground, and you have to show some courage. And so I started to write columns and write freelance articles, and I started to do lectures, and people started asking me and paying me to speak at their organization. And the more I did that, the more I realized how important it really was, and how thirsty and hungry the average woman in the workplace was for reinforcement and information, and a feeling that she could do it. She could advance her career if she really wanted to.
If you like this podcast, you'll love my companion courses, Zestful Aging, Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity, and The Wisdom of Mindful Eating. Now, for 1 month only, I'm putting both of my online courses on a radical sale. Both The Wisdom of Mindful Eating and Zestful Aging will be $19.99 each. Both of these courses have received rave reviews. They're fun, straightforward, and have the ability to change your life in the direction of more peace and less stress about eating and around aging. No extreme diets or punishing exercise. More about creating habits that feel good and are sustainable, which is health promoting and leads to a longer, happier life. This offer will expire January 31st. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Was some of that message born from what came out of your grief in that year?
Well, I think so. That level of grief really strips you down to your basics. Mm-hmm. And I think I came out of that with a sense of what I myself had been through and what I had put up with as a young woman. And I came out a little bit angry that I'd had to endure that. Because when I first started out and I was interviewing for jobs and I was working for other people, I was, a young woman in the workplace, I had some really humiliating experiences. And,
You're talking about the sexual harassment?
Yeah. Men asking me to raise my skirt to see if my legs were good enough to get hired. Those things really happened to me. And they happened to a lot of other women I know. In fact, when the Me Too movement was really in its heyday a few years ago, I wrote a newspaper column. I used to write regularly for Tribune Media. And I wrote a newspaper column, and I took an informal survey. I took about a month to do it, of women that I know well and women that I knew casually. And I probably interviewed, maybe 60 or 70 women total. Mm-hmm. And 70% of the women I interviewed said they had had some fairly traumatic sexual harassment event in their career. 70%. And the women
Unbelievable.
ranged in age from 27 to 70.
And would you, I know this is impossible to answer, and you'll have to forgive me because, I'm a psychotherapist, but I'm just trying to understand how the death of your daughter factored into this and how it gave you the voice to champion other women, and how that sort of came together for you to say, I know what I need to do.
Well, I became very introspective during that time. I mean, I suppose the first motive was guilt. How did I live my life that this happened to her? Could I have done anything to stop it or change it? Did I miss something? And it was it was a total accident. She had a car accident. It wasn't, she didn't commit suicide. But still, as her mother, I felt responsible, and I felt like I should have been able to protect her. And so I think it started with that look at myself about, what have I done that I could have done differently? Did I contribute to this in any way? And in the process of that, I think, I started, you play that tape in your head, it's like a movie. And I started, looking back at my career and my attitudes and some of the things I'd been through. And there wasn't just a negative to it, Nicole. There was also a positive to it. I wanted to come out of that grief doing something, living a life that would honor her, that would make her proud of me. So it was a double whammy. There was a negative in that I realized how I had to fight and struggle and put up with humiliating things to get to where I was. And then there was the positive aspect of it, of like, I want her to be proud of me. I don't want any other young women to ever have to go through that. And I want the world to be a better place.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And it was a gift.
In a way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean your daughter's passing. I mean, you were thinking about, how can I contribute? And I have all of this to offer now.
Well, the Buddhists believe in the yin and the yang, that for even the worst possible energy, the worst possible thing that can happen, there is always some positive energy associated with it. And if you are a true practitioner, you can find that positive energy and you can use it.
Is that how you think about
That
it?
it is how I think about it. I mean, her death put me on an entirely different path.
Yes. Yes, I can see that. And so you really started to orient yourself differently as you came out of your grief and your mourning, and speaking up, sharing with other women, being an advocate. And how was it that you cast your eye on Afghanistan and international humanitarian efforts?
Well, a lot of it has to do with network. We women are so good at building teams and building networks and supporting each other. I know that sometimes people like to say, oh, women, they're catty and they're mean to each other. That has never been, or hardly ever been, my experience. My entire life has been, to me, an example of women helping each other, whether I'm the one being helped or I'm the one helping someone else. I have found women in my life to be very supportive. And I think that part of that network is when we have a need, we look around for someone in our network. My number isn't exactly correct, but the feeling is correct. There's a statistic out there that something like 80% of all jobs in a mid-management level and up are never make it into, never make it onto Indeed. They get filled through somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And your network is so important. And what happened is I was very friendly with our U.S. congressman and his wife. I lived in Pennsylvania at the time. And I was very good friends with our congressman. And he was very involved in Afghan affairs in the Congress. And he was tasked with helping to start an Afghan American Chamber of Commerce. And when he started to look into that, he realized that the cultural differences were very real and that there would need to be a women's Afghan American Chamber of Commerce and a men's Afghan American Chamber of Commerce. They would not be able to exist in the same room, in the same space. They would have to be two separate organizations. So he called me and asked me to come to a meeting in Washington, D.C. to see if I would like to help structure and set up this Afghan American Women's Chamber of Commerce.
Do you remember what it was like? Do you remember being like excited or nervous? Or it's a pretty big deal.
Well, I'd already been in politics, and I was serving on my city's city council. I had been elected to office. The governor of Pennsylvania had appointed me to the State Women's Commission. I was a state commissioner for women's affairs. So I wasn't quite as excited or intimidated as I might have been otherwise.
I see.
But it certainly was very flattering to be asked. And at that meeting, I met a woman by the name of Tony Maloney. And Tony was the founder of an organization called the Business Council for Peace, which was an organization that focused on international conflict countries, helping women in those conflict countries rebuild their lives and build businesses. And Tony and I really hit it off. We just had instant chemistry. And the Afghan American Women's Chamber of Commerce never came to fruition. But 6 months later, Tony and I were headed for Afghanistan.
Oh my goodness. And she found the perfect person in you as someone who had been a professional businesswoman and also now someone who wanted to contribute to the empowerment of women internationally.
So Tony had put a team together, a team of wonderful, capable, competent women, and we headed to Afghanistan. And as they say, the rest is history. I fell in love with Afghanistan.
And what particular drew you in?
I think it's the I think it's the courage and the resiliency. I mean, these women have been through hell for a very long time. I mean, at that time, the country had been at war for like 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were being beheaded in soccer stadiums. It was just, they were being beaten on the street. It was just horrendous what they had come out of. And here they had this opportunity now to, kind of throw off that yoke and really, rise. I think I recognized something of us, of American women in them, in that we had gone through a period where we couldn't vote at the beginning of the 20th century. Right. So, I think I recognize that courage and that resiliency and that determination, that they have. And they're so smart. And they're very kind. I just fell in love with Afghanistan, particularly the women. And it's when you're in the country and you're traveling around the country, you realize how very beautiful it is. You know, the newscasts, you only see blown up villages and dusty deserts and things like that.
That's right.
But Afghanistan it has many parts that are very, very beautiful. Some of the most beautiful rose gardens I've ever seen are in Afghanistan.
Wow.
So
So you immediately just have this connection and with the culture, it sounds like the geography and the spirit of the women.
well, they really wanted to succeed. These women really wanted to succeed, and they were going to squeeze every ounce of knowledge and energy and opportunity out of the situation they were in that they possibly could. And it was a pleasure to work with them. It was a joy to work with them. And what has been so tragic is to see this now all rolled back. That's been tragic.
Must have been very painful for you with the withdrawal and knowing people personally and I suspect you were worrying about them and thinking about, are they okay? You know, are they safe?
Well, I was getting emails and text messages, please help me, please help me. And you can't, I couldn't, there was very, very little I could do at that point. By the time the evacuation started, it was such chaos and such a nightmare that there was just almost nothing that could be done. I do have friends that made it out, and we're trying to get them as resettled as possible. And I have friends that made it to the U.S. and they're trying to get resettled. And then I have friends who made it. I have a friend who's stuck in Uzbekistan and can't get out of Uzbekistan. And he was going to try to get he and his wife and his 3 small children were going to try to get to Mexico. And of course, Mexico realized that they've got a captive audience who is desperate, and they're now charging $9,000 for one visa to come to Mexico.
Oh my goodness.
So that's been very hard. And of course, I have friends that are still there. I think they're stuck. And some of them are in hiding. Some of them have started to venture out to test the waters. And it's very, very difficult. One of the things that I'm working on right now, because there is nothing that I can do personally to help them get out of Afghanistan. I mean, that's way above my pay grade. But I am working on a project with the International Women's Writing Guild to have Afghan women write their stories and send them to me. And we're going to work on them and edit them, translate them if we have to, and pay them for the stories, because money is a real issue in Afghanistan right now. The financial system has basically collapsed. And we are going to publish those stories and distribute them to schools and libraries and use them as inspiration and keep these women's stories in front of the public, because it's very important for, we Americans have such short attention spans, and you already don't hear anything about Afghanistan. It's pretty much fallen off the media radar screen. And we want to keep those stories in front of people so that they understand there are still women, everybody, there are still men too, and children who are suffering in Afghanistan, and they need help, they need support, they need hope. And so we're hoping that the stories that we publish in this book that we publish will help give them some hope, and will keep their stories in the public eye.
Ultimately, Pam, what are you hoping to achieve with this project?
Well, the ultimate hope, of course, would be that we could shame the Taliban or put outside international pressure on the Taliban to let some of these people go. I mean, you can't even try to get out because you have to go to a government office to either get a passport and or get a visa. And the minute you go to a government office to do that, you've identified yourself as someone who wants to leave. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping that there'll be enough international pressure, enough awareness created that people are suffering and that people are not free to live their lives as they want. They're not free to leave if they want to. And we're hoping that we can just continue to create awareness and keep the pressure on. And quite frankly, I personally am also hoping that we can create enough energy to start creating some underground railroads.
I see.
Just like they did in the South 150 years ago. I think that there's going to have to start to be efforts surreptitiously get people out of the country, because once they're beyond Afghanistan's borders, they have a better chance of being able to, they at least would be free in that country, even if they couldn't get a visa to the United States.
So even as a refugee, they'd be better off than living inside the country with a Taliban rule.
Well, if they're in a high risk group, and the women that we worked with that were working with an American nonprofit that were trying to start their own businesses, they're in a high risk group.
Mm-hmm. So you don't really trust that this is a new and improved Taliban?
No. Now, so far, I will admit they have not been as openly brutal. What's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about is another matter. But they have not been as openly brutal as they were before they were toppled in 2001. So I suppose there's something to be said for that. But girls cannot go to school beyond the age of 12, of puberty. Sixth grade is as far, they've closed all the schools, all the universities for women. Mm. They have removed all women from government jobs. They've removed all women from media. So, maybe they're not cutting off someone's head in a soccer stadium, but
it's systemic.
Those are pretty drastic situations.
Yeah. How do you keep your hope up, Pam, knowing what you know and how complicated and entrenched this problem is? How do you personally, we have so much here going on. How do you keep your energy and a positive outlook?
I have tremendous faith in the human spirit. If people can survive Auschwitz, they can survive the Taliban. And I think that you've got a whole generation of Afghans, because we occupied the country. We were in the country. The Allied forces were in the country for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So you have one entire generation that is 20-something that never lived under the Taliban before. And I really do believe that they are not going to sit down quietly and just live under these new rules. Maybe I'm overly optimistic.
Well, it's like East Germany too. It's not the same thing, but people really yearning for freedom.
Absolutely, and this younger generation that has only experienced freedom and being able to go to work and being able to go to school, I don't know how long term they're going to allow that to be rolled back. So I just have, and like I said, I've worked in the trenches with Afghan women, and I just admire them so much. They have tremendous courage and strength, and I just believe eventually they're going to prevail.
Hmm. And are you making plans to go back? Is that even possible
No,
given?
no,
No.
no. I wouldn't pretend to be thinking about something like that. I consider myself pretty brave, but that's just foolish. You
Okay.
wouldn't you wouldn't last 10 minutes off the
Hmm.
airplane.
I see. Do you have kind of a message that you would like to share with our listeners in terms of what you've learned in working with Afghani women and hearing their stories?
Well, I think it's very important for all of us to know how much power we really have and how much strength we really have. It's very easy in our culture and our society to live a very comfortable, easy life. But I think it's important for us to remember how impactful we can be when we speak up and when we do something. I mean, sometimes that's as simple as writing a check to an NGO that's doing good work. But I would like to think that women in the United States particularly would rise up in defense and in help of their sisters. We have an obligation. You know, the Dalai Lama, it's one of my favorite quotes. The Dalai Lama said, "The world is going to be saved by the Western woman."
Hmm.
And I believe that to be true. We are the most educated, the most liberated, the most informed, freest women in the world. And with that freedom comes a responsibility. And I believe we have a responsibility to help our sisters wherever they are.
Hmm. I love that idea of sisterhood. I don't know that everybody looks at it that way. I mean, they're different culturally, perhaps a different religion, and I love the idea of thinking about these women as our sisters.
Well, they are. They want the same thing. They want peace. They want to be able to go to the market and and cook
Mm-hmm.
dinner for their family, and they want their kids
Mm-hmm.
to grow up healthy and be educated. And we're so much more similar than we are dissimilar.
Mm-hmm. We really do want the same things, don't we?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm. That's really something so thought-provoking in terms of the Western woman and what we have and what we need to do. Um, I know that you have been doing work with the International Women's Writing Guild, and I'm wondering if you'd like to tell our audience how they can find out more about that, and how they can find out more about you and your other work.
Well, thank you very much for that opportunity. I do have a website, and my website is PamelaVarkony.com,
Mm-hmm.
PamelaVarkony.com. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a contact sheet on there. I also can be reached just directly by my email, which is
Mm-hmm.
pam@PamelaVarkony.com. And the International Women's Writing Guild also has a website,
Mm-hmm.
and that is iwwg.org.
IWWG.org.
WG.org. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you can go there and find out about the wonderful work that they're doing. The Afghan Women Writers Project is one of the projects that they're running right now. And they're a wonderful organization, as is Be Peace, the Business Council for Peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's bpeace.org.
Okay.
So there's lots of options to connect with women who are doing things and finding out what you can do to help.
What a beautiful way to start the new year.
It certainly is. I think it should be one of our resolutions that we're going to do something to help at least one other woman improve her life in
Oh my gosh.
2022.
Well, that is absolutely beautiful. And what I'd like to do is put out a challenge for our audience who are all over the world and have been thinking about this conflict from different perspectives. I'd like to put out a challenge about how we can help another woman as a resolution, and feel free to send that information to me at zestfulaging.com. I'd love to hear what you're doing for other women. And as a psychotherapist who works with people who have trouble with eating disorders and other kind of ailments like that, I think doing something for others is such a healthful way to take the focus off, our wounds, our pain, our trauma, and to help one of our sisters. It can be tremendously healing for us as well as somebody else.
Well, it certainly helped me with my grief.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Pam, thank you so much for opening up and being so honest about, your life and where you were really succeeding, where you struggled, where that brought you, and this contribution you're making to this global effort. So appreciated.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, Nicole. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at nicolechristina.com. It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.